Okay, Paul, just so I don't know if you could see my chat. I sent a chat out to the entire audience to let them know that we're going to just wait a couple minutes for people to finish
Yep,
logging on before we start.
got it. Thank you.
And then I'm going to turn my Outlook off so that those notifications don't keep hitting during the presentation.
Got it.
Just let everybody know that can hear me. If you didn't see the chat, we're going to start in a couple minutes. We just want to give people last couple minutes to log on for the presentation, and we'll begin shortly. Thank you. We'll give them one more minute.
Yep. You in the office today, Steve, or at home?
I'm in the office today. I didn't want to use my laptop at home and log on through the VDI for the presentation. Too many layers of potential technical problems.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I think we should go ahead and get started.
I think so.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Steve Brandell, and I run the life division here at Heffernan Insurance Brokers. I've been in this industry for over 30 years, been with Heffernan for 7. And the responsibilities of my division are for individual life insurance, disability insurance. We do long-term care. And I've been working with Paul Wickline at Unum. Paul and I have been working together for a few years, but Paul has been in this industry for 30. And he was one of those guys that knew what he wanted to do early in his life, started off with a degree in insurance and risk management at Washington State University. He's helped me with a lot of clients who've had questions about financial wellness and income equalization if anyone were to become disabled. So we couldn't have a better expert to talk to us this morning, and I'm really pleased he could join us. So at this moment, I'm going to turn it over to Paul. And Paul, you're going to let me know when you're ready to begin and when you're ready to go to the next slide.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate you having me. Just a sound check. You're hearing me just fine?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Great. Well, thanks again for inviting me to join with all today. Financial wellness is an important topic, especially in today's unique times where we all are dealing with challenges associated with COVID. Today, we will review the need and potential solutions to protect your employees' most valuable asset, their ability to earn an income, and what happens in the event they cannot work due to sickness or accident. We want to make sure that all are aware of the available benefits, both for organizations and, again, their valued employees. So with that, we'll move to slide 2, talk a little bit about our agenda for today. And did you advance the slide, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm not following with yours, but that's fine. We'll keep moving along. So today for our agenda, we're going to talk a little bit about market trends and what we're seeing in the market. As Steve had mentioned, I've been with Unum, the market leader in income protection programs for over 30 years. And in the Bay Area for 28 of those years. I'm going to just kind of fill you in a little bit of what we're seeing with all of our clients, as well as just sort of observations in the market. We'll talk a little bit about the need, kind of the forgotten need to protect your income if you get sick or hurt and you can't work. Again, with the challenges of COVID, this has become a benefit that people are paying a lot more attention to in the last 12 months. We'll talk about what IDI is, and we'll get to that in just a second. We'll talk about some highlights of supplemental solutions over and above what you're already doing for those that desire additional coverage. We'll take a look or two at some case snapshots. We'll do a little bit of a market analysis of what we can do for you and your organization. Talk about how technology is making this easier than ever for you and your employees, and then we'll talk a little bit about next steps and takeaways. And all along the way, if there are any questions, Steve, feel free to just go ahead and stop and ask me the questions as they come in, because we do want to make sure that we answer all questions that come in.
Absolutely. Can you see the screen now, Paul? Is it showing now? Should be.
Yes, it is. I'm
okay,
good to go.
Perfect. Great.
So we'll go to the next slide, please. Great. We appreciate everybody's patience today. We've got multiple people sharing different screens, et cetera. So as we all know with technology, this can be a lot of fun. So appreciate everyone's patience here. So we're just going to hit on a few highlights in terms of trends. I mean, obviously, you folks you're in the business of taking care of your valued employees. COVID has changed all of our worlds. It certainly has heightened the awareness of the employer-provided benefits, whether it's the life insurance benefits, the medical insurance benefits, but even the kind of the forgotten need of the disability benefits. People are starting to ask a little bit more like, well, what happens if I don't have a job? Can I take it with me? Or what is our disability plan again? Do we have short-term? Do we have long-term? If so, what's covered? What's not? How does the tax work? So just more and more questions are starting to surface, especially with COVID and some of the challenges associated. We, as the market leader at Unum, we've watched a lot of our claims activity increase, certainly on the short-term disability side, but even more so now that we're sort of 12 months in, we're starting to see more and more long-term disability claims surface. A lot of that is led by anxiety and stress at the workplace and at home, just dealing with the challenges associated with COVID. Those things lead to, different types of conditions where, the body reacts to stress and anxiety, and we're seeing more and more claim activity and thus more and more concerns about their existing benefits, and do people have enough based on the different types of contingencies out there. Employers, obviously, like yourselves, we're always looking for solutions, and we're always looking to enhance anything to do with financial wellness. It's a hot topic. It always has been, and it will continue to be such, where we want to be able to help our employees help themselves and protect their families in the event of certain things occurring in their lives. The other thing is we're really seeing a lot of emerging industries seeking out these types of supplemental solutions. It used to be that supplemental solutions to protect one's income, you would really see it in just a few industries. You might see it in the investment world. You might see it in the physician market. You might see it with law firms. But the reality is, in the last year or two, you're starting to see more and more trends where people are examining their incumbent group plan, and they're looking to provide some additional income protection solutions if people get sick or hurt through the workplace. And we're seeing that in the technology and the biotech and the biopharma. We're certainly continuing to see it grow in the financial world, definitely seeing it more so in consulting and business services, and then just in the manufacturing space too. It's a solution and a market that has certainly evolved in the last 12 months. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So this is where I think the rubber really meets the road. And as Steve had mentioned, 35 years ago, I decided to major in college in insurance and risk management. And that really was a function of a family member who became sick and wasn't able to work for a very, very long time before they passed away. And I always found it interesting in terms of the way that they were receiving dollars from the company known as disability insurance way back when. And that led me to sort of pursue, a review of life insurance and disability insurance and, those types of risks that all families faced, and to make sure that people were aware of the protection that was available and the solutions that were there based on the need and based on the risk. And some things never change some 35 years later. And when you look at the need of disability insurance versus life insurance, we all know that we're going to pass at some point. We all look to get some form of life insurance along the way. But disability insurance is oftentimes, as I mentioned, sort of the forgotten need, something we don't often want to talk about, but it does occur, and it occurs a lot more than most people know. In fact, if you were to look at current statistics, you would find that employees have a 4.5 times greater likelihood of becoming disabled for longer than 90 days than they do to die during their working years. Most people are not aware of that, but the risk is real. The average long-term disability lasts about 2.7 years. And those are statistics straight out of Social Security from 2020, as well as all carriers that share their data, and they show what their average length of disability is. And as we all know, if someone's not working at an organization, typically after a year, they're no longer at that particular organization. And if they suffer a disability and it lasts 2.5 years, those can have devastating effects on one's family. And it's also difficult for that person to re-enter the marketplace down the road when they've been out for some time. So it presents numerous challenges to the disabled employee as well as his or her family. Some leading causes, again, many of you know these things, but it's always sort of helpful because people do oftentimes ask me the questions of what are you seeing as the leading causes when it comes to long-term disability? And those things have changed over the years. We're now seeing the top 4 as cancer, neurological disorders, musculoskeletal, and again, mental nervous. Think about drug, alcohol, mental nervous type anxiety, stress-related claims. Those continue to manifest themselves in today's world. 1 in 4 employees who enters the marketplace today will become disabled before they retire. That's a statistic that has actually not changed in 30 years as well. So people continue to get disabled, although in different forms and different causes. The only way for employees who desire to have additional income protection or insurance and to access coverage on a guarantee issue basis where they don't have to provide evidence of insurability and medical history and questions and labs and exams. And the only way for employees to be able to get discounted rates is through you, the employer. Because if they go out and they try to buy this on their own, they are subject to medical evidence, blood, urine, paramed, EKG, full financial data in order for a company to review their ability to get more coverage, and they charge them what's called full retail costs because there are no discounted rates. When an employer provides a supplemental solution to a valued employee, you're able to provide a rate that's about 50 cents on the dollar as if they were to go out and buy it on their own. So substantial savings each and every year that you can bring to them, and you can allow them to access coverage where they don't have to provide medical evidence. A win-win for both the organization as well as the employees. And then lastly, and this is something that's come up a lot in the last year, people don't oftentimes realize that if a company decides to close their doors or if someone gets laid off, they can't take their disability insurance with them when they have group disability because it is not a COBRA benefit and it does not port. And it makes sense, it's group coverage, and if you're not working for the group and you're not making an income, well then how can you have a benefit? But most people are not aware of that when they are no longer at a company and they move on, or if they're in between jobs, or if the company's no longer in business, they no longer have any disability insurance. And this is oftentimes very eye-opening and certainly has been in the last 12 months. So people are saying, that's a problem. And if it is a problem for your organization or for your valued employees, there are certainly solutions there. So thus far, we've talked a little bit about what we're seeing in the market in terms of trends, and we're talking about the need just in general of the risk of people who become disabled. So we'll stop there and just see if there's any specific questions before we move on to the next slide.
I don't see any hands going up. Let me just real quick add one thing about the guaranteed issue portion that you just mentioned. I just can't express how beneficial that is because I've been on the receiving end of a lot of different ratings on disability applications that are done individually, and I would say one in five comes back as applied for. Usually there's some kind of waiver or some kind of rate increase, because they will find anything that's ever happened to you in your life and write out that part of your body. If you had a broken ankle or if you had back problems, they won't cover it. And it's so crucial to be able to have guaranteed issue that even more important than life insurance is on disability insurance for sure.
Good point.
Okay, we have no questions, so go ahead.
So I'll move to the next slide, please.
Okay.
So what is supplemental disability, or what is individual disability insurance, known as IDI? Well, let me tell you what it is in 2021. As Steve just mentioned, it doesn't mean that those that desire to have additional coverage on top of the group coverage, or if the company doesn't provide any disability insurance, if people would like to buy some on their own, all these things can lead to what we would call as an individual disability insurance policy, or a supplemental policy that can sit on top of a group plan if you have it now. And they come in lots of different forms in terms of solutions. And we'll just hit on a couple of them here. So supplemental LTD plans can certainly supplement your group disability plan to cover employees whose income levels are above your plan maximum. One thing about disability insurance, unlike life insurance, is that with disability insurance, a lot of times employees do not know what their coverage is until they have a claim, and then they find out. Most people on their life insurance, though, have an idea what they get through their employer. For example, an employer may say, well, you get one-time salary up to $200,000, or you get a multiple of your salary, or you might get a flat $50,000 program for your group life plan. And many employees will say, well, geez, that's not enough. If I were to die prematurely, my family needs a lot more money. I need to buy a supplemental life policy to properly protect my family against premature death during my working years. On the other side, though, back to the risk of disability, oftentimes we tend to forget that it could happen, and it has a greater chance of happening during our working years than of passing away. But even with that, we oftentimes have no idea what our group plan is. That is, if the employer is actually offering a group plan. Most people are often surprised of three things. Most people are often surprised at claim time that there is a maximum benefit. Again, they're aware of this in the life plan, but never on the disability plan did they know that there's a plan maximum in terms of monthly benefits. Most people do not know that the income that is protected oftentimes is just base salary. Not always. Some groups do cover other forms of compensation, but the lion's share of the plans in the United States just cover base salary, and most people are often surprised at that. They're also oftentimes surprised that it only covers 60% or potentially 66 2/3 of one's income. Obviously, the thought process without knowing would be, well, I'd get 100% of my income covered, but it's not that way. And it's oftentimes a surprise at claim time. And then lastly, the majority of cases, not all, but the majority of cases do have a program in place whereby when the benefits are received, they are received on a taxable basis. So most of the time, people don't realize that 60% isn't 60% after tax. 60% might be more like 43 or 45% after tax. And again, that is a bad surprise for most. So oftentimes when people look at what they do have through the company, if the company is generous enough to provide a foundation layer of coverage known as group, let's make sure they're aware of what it is. And if they need more, let's give them the opportunity to supplement the additional amounts that are desired. And again, that can be whether or not that's because we've reached the plan maximum for the group plan and there are people that are above that line that need additional protection, and the company wants to treat all employees the same. And we'll show you an example of that in just a couple of minutes. It also could be that there are scenarios where there's a bunch of uncovered earnings from the group LTD contract. Or again, if there's no coverage, all income that is exposed is certainly something that someone would want to have the ability to cover if they were aware of what their total compensation was and what is currently covered and what is uncovered in terms of earnings. A perfect example would be if the LTD plan only covered base salary and individuals had a lot of other incentive compensation that wasn't covered. They may have the desire to want to cover that income. We can provide solutions to do just that. I mentioned earlier about the fact that most people are concerned about disability insurance amounts when they go on claim. If it turns out that they know the amount of benefits that they can expect through the company plan is not enough, we have the ability to allow them to buy up to higher amounts of coverage so that we can take into account the taxation considerations due to the group insurance. And if people desire to have more dollars, we can provide them a supplemental plan to get them higher levels of coverage in addition to the group plan. Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier. What is supplemental disability in 2021? Well, through us and with the programs that Heffernan provides, it's guarantee issue and it's deep discounting compared to what you would see on the streets, where people would have to buy this on their own, provide full medical and financial evidence, and pay full retail pricing. And the last thing is these programs are oftentimes either employer paid or potentially a voluntary program. Really kind of depends on the goals and the objectives of the customers, as well as sort of the in-force plan and where the real exposure and liabilities are. We'll be able to do those analysis for you individually. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. So, Steve, if there aren't any questions, I would ask that we move to the next slide, please.
Okay, let me just check and see if there are any questions. I don't see any hands raised, so we'll go to the next slide. There you go.
So in terms of supplemental LTD, again, talking about providing additional coverage on top of a group plan, or if there is no group plan, what are some of the highlights in terms of the product and the solution that you can bring to the table for your valued employees who desire more coverage, or if in the HR department you desire to treat all the people the same and we realize that there are some gaps and exposures in your current plan, what are some of the highlights of the supplemental solutions that are available? I think the first thing is that the supplemental programs are built with individual ownership of policies. And what that means is when a policy is issued, the policy is issued in an individual's name. And then regardless of what happens in their working future, if a company goes out of business, this particular policy is portable. Unlike the group insurance, an individual who leaves a company on his or her own accord, or the company closes their doors, whatever the case may be, someone has the ability to have a policy in their name that they can port, that they can own, and it can stay with them all through their working years, unlike the group insurance that cannot be ported as it is a non-COBRA benefit. The premiums or the rates that one would pay for this, whether the company is paying for coverage for employees or it's a voluntary plan and people are electing whether or not they desire this coverage on their own, the premiums are guaranteed all the way out to, say, age 65 or 67. So it's a great situation where you are able to put a program in that has a solution that has guaranteed rates and doesn't come back every couple of years with a renewal that changes the cost for the organization or for your valued employees. Guarantee issue, very, very important, where you simply are just verifying that people are actively at work as opposed to asking them about all of their medical history. That starts at only 3 lives. Substantial rate discounts are available through the workplace, offering what we would call multi-life plans starting with 3 lives. These particular programs, very important, do not contain pre-existing limitations. So somebody puts in a supplemental plan, they're issued a guarantee issue plan with guaranteed rates. There are no pre-existing limitation clauses for these contracts. So should something occur in the very near future after policy is issued, they're covered, and there's no limitations that would come into play, and they wouldn't be covered for the first year, which again is a win-win for both the organization as well as an employee who desires proper income protection levels. There are no offsets with these plans. So if there's any money received from a state, say, for example, in California, where there's state disability, or New York or other states, there's no offsets on these policies. for any dollars you would receive from the state or even Social Security, the federal government source, where someone may go on disability and receive money from a federal agency. There are no offsets with these policies. You still get the full amount of the policy, regardless of what you would get from the public sector, whether it be state or federal. For those of you that might be interested in looking at getting a supplemental plan in for your valued employees, do know that if there are any experience charges that are associated with these supplemental solutions, they do not end up charging your group LTD plan. As you know, with your group plan, every couple of years, you'll have a renewal with Heffernan, and you'll look at what the market has for you, for the incumbent carrier, and perhaps others. A lot of times that's every 2 or 3 years you're looking at your plan. And again, if there are any claims associated with these supplemental programs, none of that experience would go towards your renewal for your group insurance, which is, again, a win-win, because you want to be able to control the volatility of your group plan, especially with COVID and other things that we're seeing in today's world of 2021. And then the last thing to know, we always let everyone know, is we realize that Unum, although a market leader for the supplemental individual programs, we also are the market leader on the group side, but oftentimes the group insurance may be with a variety of carriers and not just with Unum. Our supplemental solutions are able to be put in regardless who the underlying carrier is. So regardless of who you have for your short-term and your long-term disability, if you have a group plan in place now, our solutions would be able to be put on top of your incumbent plan with no change.
Hey, Paul, we have a question.
We'll move to the next. Yes.
So someone asked if employees can purchase the supplemental plan if the employer does not have a long-term disability plan in place. I'm assuming they mean a group plan.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know a couple of times I had mentioned depending on whether or not you have a group plan or even if you didn't have a group plan. So just to answer that specific question, if there is nothing in place, we still can look at the existing income and a census that an organization has, and then understand, is there any benefit at all? Is there any salary continuation? Do you have a sick pay plan? If you have nothing in place and you have no short-term disability and you have no group LTD, we can still take a look at a program for you along with Steve and Heffernan and the folks that you work with at Heffernan, and we will determine what is the right approach. Depending on the organization and the size of the organization, there can be different solutions. But the short answer to your question is yes, you have the ability to offer an individual plan on a standalone basis if you don't have a group plan.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Did you say you're ready for the next slide?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So really a good place to start, and you heard me just mention, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll do sort of what we call a market analysis or a case snapshot. And what we need to do that along with the Heffernan team is just the most updated census, and then just a couple of questions answered. As I just mentioned, do you have a program in place? You know, whether it's self-funded or whether it's a fully insured plan where you might have short-term and you might have a long-term disability plan, or to the earlier question, no, we don't have anything. We would start with looking at the census. We would look at the ages and what people do for jobs, and we would look at developing the different types of solutions that might be available. Oftentimes it can be a voluntary plan. Oftentimes it can also be a fully insured plan where the employer is providing additional benefits on top of the group insurance to deal with a potential gap or a liability. But what you're looking at here is, I would just call it more of a compensation analysis or a scatter chart. We won't go through the whole thing, but a lot of times if you have a group plan, what we'll do is we'll look at what your income is, and we'll look at what your income protection plan is, otherwise known as your disability plan. And we'll look at what the plan max is, and we'll want to ask a couple of questions, as in, here is your current income against your current income protection program. You'll see that there are, say in this case, 23 valued employees that are not getting 60% income protection because of the plan maximum. If this would be a problem for your organization, we have a solution to share with you. Other times the question may be for your consideration is, if one of the individuals in the red dots became disabled, what would you do as an organization? And if, again, that would be a problem, or if you would feel as if you would have to true them up because, quote, they didn't know, or that's a problem for the company, again, we would have solutions through Heffernan to make these red dots sort of go away so that you can provide parity or egalitarian type solutions for all employees. Other times, all the people that are in the green or even in the red have no idea what they're getting for disability insurance until they go on claim, as we mentioned before. What we can do is do a really nice job of educating and communicating to all employees what their current program is, so that if they think they need more coverage individually as an employee for their family, we can provide a voluntary program for those individuals. But this gives you a little bit of a snapshot. This is a healthcare company that has 125 employees, has the most popular plan in America, 60% to $10,000 a month and taxable. So you've got some people here that may not have enough coverage after tax, and you have some people here that may have some reverse discrimination going on, as the highest income folks have the lowest percentage of income replacement. And again, sometimes these analyses can help us better understand, does this meet with our philosophy at company ABC? And if it doesn't meet with our philosophy, then let's figure out the right solution so that we at Heffernan can be in compliance with whatever you folks would like to do for your supplemental solutions to take care of your valued employees. Now, again, I realize there are people joining today that may be representing a very small company, maybe 10 or 20 or 40 or 50 lives, and then there may be some folks here that, you know, represent a company that has 500 plus lives. So we just tried to use a couple of just very simple examples. If we go to the next slide, Steve, you'll see a scenario here where this happens to be a biotech company, again, kind of plotting ages and incomes. This particular group plan has a short-term disability and it turns into long-term disability after 90 days. It covers 60% to $12,000 a month. It actually covers base salary only, but this particular organization has salespeople and has bonus components. So you can just see the variety of income starting at $40,000 to $50,000, going all the way up to $550,000 in this case. So you have a whole bunch of different forms of compensation. Much of it is uncovered. You also have the plan maximum scenario where maybe half the group or a third of the group doesn't have 60% income replacement. So all these things can add up to, hey, maybe this is a good time in 2021 for us to really review our philosophy of benefits and what we want to accomplish on the disability side. And if we want to update our program, do we want to provide additional coverage from an employer paid standpoint, or should we look to complement our supplemental life plan where we're offering a base life insurance plan with the ability for employees to buy more life insurance who desire more coverage to protect their family? Should we complement that life plan with a supplemental LTD solution too? So by giving people an opportunity who desire more coverage for their family, just like on the life side, but here on the disability side, to give them an opportunity to access benefits, again, that are discounted and on a guarantee issue basis through the workplace that only you can help them get access to. Again, just a couple of case snapshots. Every case is different. Every organization is different in terms of the number of employees, the incomes, the plan that's in force or not in force per the earlier question, and we can do a little bit of an analysis. So let's just go to the next slide and hit on that for a second, Steve. So to the analysis that we can do for you, for each of the companies joining and those that are interested, what a lot of times we'll do is we'll start with, you know, that updated census and ask a few questions about the existing benefits that you have. Many of these things will already be known by the Heffernan partners that you deal with. But what we can do, if you would like, is we can do a study on your existing population of what's covered, if there are any gaps in exposures. We can share some benchmarking data of what other people in your space are doing, and that's pure analysis, whether it's a SIC code or a specific industry or a case size or a geography cut where we can look at a certain area of the country. We can kind of give you an idea of what we're normally seeing for groups like yours in terms of group long-term disability plans and then individual disability plans known as supplemental LTD solutions. Again, this is all about just an analysis of your current plan and what your own needs are in your philosophy, as well as what other people are doing. And certainly the goal here is to try to give you flexible solutions that can be financial wellness enhancements for your employees to complement your life offerings with a disability solution. And it's really all based on what's important to the organization in terms of goals and objectives and problem solving. So again, what do we need? Really an updated census, getting a better understanding of what the current plan is, and then we can do an analysis that can provide, pieces of information that may be helpful for you in making a decision of whether or not you would want to enhance your existing plan in the near future. So we'll see if there's any questions there. Back to you, Steve. And if there's not, then we'll roll into slide 10 in terms of sort of technology and communication.
No questions at this point. Okay, I will roll to the next slide. There you go.
So what I would say is for those folks that are joining today and representing various size companies and organizations, some small, medium, and large, a lot of times I think we'd all agree that it's a pretty busy world we're living in, and we don't have a lot of bandwidth for new programs and new solutions, although we are typically all interested in the financial well-being of all of our employees. And obviously, COVID does present some unique challenges. I just want everyone to know that what we do is we do understand that there's limited time, there's limited bandwidth to take more on, but we also realize that the risk is real and that people are concerned about protecting their income and protecting their job and making sure that they have proper protection. At the time when an organization is ready to put in a new program to enhance their existing group plan, or if they don't have a group plan and they're looking to put something in to allow people to access something that they can't get on their own, they have to go through the workplace. We're going to make it easy for you to do that. Our job is to help educate and communicate to people what their existing benefits are or are not. And if they so choose to want to buy more coverage on their own, similarly to the life program that you have in play, then we want to make that easy to do, doing it online, making it easy for people to click a link within 5 to 7 minutes, clearly understand what they could expect through the group plan. If it's not enough, how do I buy more? Is there some flexibility in terms of costs and benefits so I can access something on a guarantee issue basis? We're going to do it all online to make it as easy as possible. And yet we'll still provide some written communication because sometimes there is some value in sending some materials to the home in addition, so people are properly educated. As we know, we get a lot of emails at the office, and sometimes it's also nice on the weekend to kind of batch the mail and kind of look at stuff one time a week. When we have our families, I know that that's what a lot of people say. It's nice to just kind of review some of this stuff on the weekend, but we're going to make it very easy from a communication standpoint to get the value to the organization so their people are more in touch of what they can expect from the employer provided plan, and also, again, provide them an opportunity if they so choose to buy more, they can access that coverage because you put a plan out there. If it's employer paid, and there's not as much needed in terms of education and communication, but it's just as simple as we need to get this plan in place. We're going to make it very easy so that someone within 5 minutes will understand exactly what's being provided for them from the company, and we'll make sure that they get in and out of the enrollment site so that the policy can be issued for them. So the reason this is important is many years ago, say 5-10 years ago, and even other carriers that are out there, this particular solution is still a paper-driven solution for many. And as we all know, that's not what you want. So we do want to make it easy for you in terms of education, communication, and the enrollment and the ongoing administration using digital technology. So know that you would have that ability with us. And then let's just switch to the last slide and just maybe hit sort of next steps and just some takeaways of what we've discussed today. Again, financial wellness, very important topic, as we know. COVID has made financial wellness really come to light here in the last year on many fronts, whether it's, people continuing their job and the changes associated with their job and their employment, obviously protecting things that are important to them, their medical history, their life insurance, their disability insurance. So it's something that is near and dear to all of our hearts. And we as risk management partners, we want to make sure that we're constantly communicating with all of you to advise potential solutions to help you and help employees so that we're all in compliance with your goals and your objectives. So the concerns are real, the loss of income is real, and we want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. The supplemental disability, otherwise known as IDI or individual disability insurance plans, can help alleviate those concerns. You can provide higher levels of coverage or get levels of coverage consistent so that you're treating all employees the same. You can also take care of folks that have uncovered compensation or are a little bit concerned once they see what the after-tax effects are of their existing disability benefits, and they desire to have more coverage and coverage that they own that is portable regardless of what happens in their working years. Many of us haven't been at the same company like me for 30 plus years. Most people have had, 10 to 12 jobs over 30 years. I think the latest statistic from the Bureau of Labor Statistics says that the average U.S. American who joined in the workforce in 2019 will have 16 different jobs during their working year. So portability and ownership of benefits is important as opposed to just being limited to the existing employer. So it's something that we're seeing more and more people ask for, wanting to augment their existing plans so that they have both types of coverage, some temporary coverage when they're at an employer and some permanent coverage regardless of what happens with that one employer over their working years. It is the perfect complement to your existing supplemental life programs, as we talked about before. My guess is you have a base life plan, you have a voluntary or a supplemental or an optional life plan that allows employees who desire more coverage to buy more coverage. This is a perfect complement to what you're already doing on the life side. And if you take into account the risk, in that it's 4.5 times greater likelihood that somebody would become disabled versus pass during their working years, obviously the risk tells us we should be taking a look at offering these types of programs to our employees. And then again, when you know that the options for people who desire additional protection are very limited in terms of having to provide full financial and medical evidence and pay full retail rates, you certainly have something to provide to them that they cannot get without your help. Ease of administration, technology, digital advancements make it easier to put these programs in place and make it easier from an ongoing basis for those that desire additional amounts of protection. And again, how do we get started individually for all of you that would like us to do a market analysis? We simply just need the most updated census and just a couple of questions in regards to the short-term or the long-term disability benefits or the lack of those benefits. And then what we can do is we can kind of review what other people have in your space, do an analysis, see where we see there could be some potential gaps in exposures or even liabilities, depending on, the way an organization would treat somebody who became disabled, who caused an issue or a liability for a company. And there are several good reasons for that. Sometimes it's employee agreements, sometimes it's severance agreements, sometimes it's ownership agreements like partnership or shareholders that cause issues that sometimes it's too late to fix the problem after the events occurred. So again, all those things would be encompassed with our team here at Heffernan, kind of looking at your existing plan and then pointing out a few things and showing you what your flexible solutions would be, and then deciding whether or not you would want to make a change to enhance your program here in the near future. May is an interesting month, and I'll just share with you that May is Disability Awareness Month. Many of you that are in the HR world know of different months mean different things, and we always do a lot of promotion in the month of May because we want people to understand that, Disability Awareness Month is there for a reason, and we want to make sure that all HR folks and employers as well as the employees are aware of what the program is that is available to them through the workplace. And if there is desire, whether it's from the HR folks or the employers side of the house or just the employees to access some additional coverage, you certainly can provide them something, again, that they cannot get without your help. So with that, let's open it back up to see if there's any chat questions, Steve, and maybe some closing comments from you. And I think those are the 45 minutes that we planned on connecting today and reviewing this topic for our audience.
Thank you, Paul. Excellent job, by the way. That was extremely informative. I really appreciate it. Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions that you want to ask Paul, or do you want to send me in a chat? We'd be happy to go over them with Paul. And I just want to say really and truly that anyone who has ever tried to get an individual disability policy on their own can understand the benefit of having the ability to get one guaranteed issue through your employer. Anyone who's ever experienced a disability, God forbid, in their personal life will understand the benefit of having a supplemental plan on top of their base group plan for all the reasons that Paul mentioned in his presentation. You don't want to wait until there's a need or an event to realize that either you're underinsured or you could have had the disability in place that you needed. I'm here all the time, and I would like to share. Let me know if you can see this, Paul. I'm going to open up. There's my info.
Yes.
Can you see that?
Yes.
So this is me. This is the Heffernan Life Division. I'm the director. Tim Erb is our operations manager. We have lots of different programs available to help in any need. So please, if you have a question or if there's anything you would like to know in further detail from Paul or myself, please reach out to me. I'm in touch with Paul all the time. We can set up a meeting. We can have a Zoom call. We can go over your specific plan or find out where the shortages are and make sure that you, your company, your employees are well protected from the definite unplanned problems that can arise doing business. Because one of the things that people forget about when they're talking about all their insurance needs and talking about their liability insurance and talking about their officer's insurance and talking about anything that can happen in business today. And there are a lot of different things that can happen. Sometimes the forgotten need, as Paul said, is what happens to me or my business if I can't work, or if one of my top employees can't work. How do we take care of him and his family, and how do we keep the business viable? So that's what we're here for. So I don't see any questions. Paul, is there any last comments that you want to make? Oh, wait, hold on. There is one more question. I take that back. Hi, are you going to send the presentation along with recordings? Yes, I have recorded. I've recorded it. I have the presentation available. If you're interested in it, let me know, and I'd be happy to send you a copy. Anybody else? I believe that's it. So, Paul, any last words?
The only thing I would say is thank you for inviting me in. It was a pleasure to speak with all of you. As Steve knows, I'm very passionate about this subject for a variety of reasons, including my family. It is something that I think is vital, as all of us, in the HR space or the insurance space, we're all risk management partners. I think it's important that people understand what they can count on. I think COVID, as I said before, has brought this benefit a little bit closer to the forefront. People are starting to take a closer look. Many employers are looking to update their plan. And when they're updating their plan, they're saying to themselves, does our existing plan meet with our benefit philosophy? And what that oftentimes means is, are we taking care of everybody on an equal footing the way we plan to, because oftentimes we haven't updated this benefit in a while, and if we're not, let's fix that today in 2021. Or if our philosophy is to do different benefits for different people, then let's understand what it is that isn't being done now that you would like to have done. And again, all of the Heffernan team, as well as I, would be more than happy to do an analysis and show you what solutions would be available based on your philosophy of benefits under this line of coverage. We look forward to talking with you in the near future and seeing if there's some things that we can do to help you individually and your organizations, as well as your valued employees. So again, I thank you for your time, and I wish you a safe and healthy day and a balance of the year.
Thank you, Paul. I really appreciate it. And just real quick, I just want to remind everyone that to get an analysis is very simple. It's a very easy process. All we need is a census and a group plan summary, and we can show you who is at risk. We can turn it around very quickly, and you'd be surprised. I think a lot of people are surprised when they see how many of their valued employees could be at risk based on the limitations of most group plans. So thank you again, Paul, for your time. I really appreciate it. I'd like to thank everyone who joined us this morning. We really appreciate you as a valued Heffernan client, and we are here for you to meet any and all of your needs. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And with that, I will say have a great day, and I hope to talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.